Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and I know it's kind of dark as I'm sitting in my car right now, but I thought I would do a true behind the scenes video because sometimes I don't think people understand what actually goes into the creation of my videos. So I thought I would take you on the process, kind of show you where I shoot and how I do it, and film all the content. So we are starting off on this journey on really kind of the first part of the creation of a range report. Of course, I've already loaded the range bag, and I am here at the Frisco Gun Club in Frisco, Texas, and right now it is 10:15 at night on a Saturday. So there are a couple cars in the parking lot, but that might be employees. But for the most part, you can see nobody else is here, and that's it. So we are going to get out of the car, unpack, and then we're going to go to where I can get in using a biometric access pad, and I have access to this range 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And because I'm here to review a silencer on an AK, I hope no one else is here, even though the cars are here, because if there's other people on the range and they're firing guns, it kind of ruins the shooting footage for suppressors. So let me go ahead and get all the stuff out of the car, and let's get into the range and get all set up. All right, so I know it's a little bit windy. Sorry about all the background noise, but I already took most of my stuff into the range, but I want to show you the biometric access that I have. And this is why I come in the middle of the night and late at night, because nobody else is here. All right, so I come up here to the door. We have this little keypad, and you can see what time it is. And I put my thumb here, it beeps, unlocks the door, and then we come into the range. And I think you guys are familiar with that look right there. So let me go ahead and get all my stuff set up, and I'll show you what my usual filming gear all put together looks like. So I have everything laid out that I'm going to need for the range report on the Meridian Defense AK. I have a laser thermometer, I have the chronograph, I got a rest, obviously get my range bag set up here, and then over here I have my light and camera set up. It's relatively simple, just a basic LED panel, and I can adjust the brightness. Here is the Sony ZL1 vlogging camera. I think that's the model, and I use that for everything. And I have this little mic cover up here because I'm sure you hear in the background of this video there's a lot of noise here, a lot of fans and wind inside for ventilation, so that can get very distracting. I have all the magazines I'm going to need for the first few tests loaded up. Got the suppressor, there's the AK, and the target set up for the first test. So I come here, and this whole setup takes me about 15 minutes to get going. So now I'll just go through the basic tests, and I'll probably film one from behind so you can actually see the amount of time it takes for each test. So that is my usual setup, and as you can see, no one else is here. The lights are off in the rest of the range, and I have to run a power cord to my lighting. So there you go. It's a relatively small setup here for the VIP lanes at the Frisco Gun Club, but it allows me to shoot by myself late at night. All right, so let's start this review. All right, so let's film one of these tests, and of course we'll do the fun one, the backed up. I already got the camera rolling. You can see the little red dot there, and I got that target out there, which I don't like because it's not a typical IDPA target, but we seem to be out of those today, so we just have to deal with the ones we got. It's one of those like defensive targets where it shows like the organs and has like different point scores for the different parts, but I don't like that. I like typical, just basic IDPA silhouettes, but it's what we got. So I'm gonna put the camera down here, and I gotta make sure it does not get hit by any flying brass. So I think I have the camera out of the way. Okay, I think we got it there. All right, so here we go. Let's see if I can get this on camera. And you'll see me kind of pause for a second and I try to give myself time before and after each shot so I can edit in and edit out of that footage. All right, here we go. Good old Mac dump with a suppressed Meridian Defense AK. How'd that look? I have to tell you, I've discovered that AKs, which is what I've heard in the past, they're not great rifles to suppress. I actually get a lot of sparks out of the gas tube. So tone-wise, it's definitely not very, or the suppressor doesn't work that great because it's just a leaky gun, gas-wise. It sounds pretty good, but I can tell it's kind of loud. And the handguard's getting really, really hot. So that's what I've discovered so far. But all right, now I have to get out the laser thermometer and check the heat on this suppressor. So when we get done here, I'll show you how I make thumbnails. All right, so we're working on the suppressor review, and I want to show you one of the neatest things that has been lent to the channel that helps me with all these reviews is the Garmin Zero chronograph. And this is on loan to the channel from my friend D, and in fact the gun and the suppressor are his as well. So this is an amazing little device, and whenever I'm out here I'm going to do the unsuppressed and suppressed kind of side-by-side shooting, I always use this for the ballistics data, and I got to turn it on, but I do have to program it every single time. So I have to look at the ammo that I'm using for this, and I'm just using some S&B, and it says it's 124 grain. So I need to make a new session, and rifle, and 124 grain. So let's adjust it here. That's it. It's actually pretty cool, and then it goes to my phone, and that's where I can get the screenshots of all that ballistics data. So anyway, just these cool tools that I get to use. So, and once again, it's just me here at the old empty range. I've been here now for probably 45 minutes, and it's what time? It is 11:20, so 11:20 at night, and if you're an introvert like I am, this is paradise. All right, so let me get going with this suppressor review, and then we'll make the thumbnail. All right, so we're done at the range with all of the footage I need for both the range report on the Meridian Defense AK and the suppressor. So now I do the last things, which is get the opening shots, which I've already done, but I want to show you how I set up the camera, and then we're going to get the thumbnail. And as you can see, the rifle is out there on the range. It's kind of weird that the opening shots, the things that you see first, and the thumbnail are actually the last things that I record. So let's go on out here to the range, and because nobody else is here and it literally is like almost midnight, I can be out here. So I set up the camera out here and I have it face the bay where I'm shooting. So whenever you see those opening shots, that's how the camera is set up. And then, of course, we have to come out here to the range and take a thumbnail. Now, I sweep the area, and then I have to get kind of like down on the ground to get those shots, but I kind of feel like that makes a better thumbnail than just ones on my workbench. So that's kind of the behind the scenes. So I guess what I'll do is maybe I'll go back to the garage and I'll give you guys my first impressions on the Meridian Defense AK and this suppressor. So let's head on home and let's talk about it. All right, so we're back from the range, and I hope you guys enjoyed that little behind the scenes footage of what it takes to create a range report. And it's really cool to go to the range when it's just you and you're by yourself, and I get to set up all the cameras and the lights the way I want them, and I don't have to be bothered. And as I mentioned, as an introvert, it's really nice. But also when I'm trying to film anything with a suppressor, I really can't have gunfire in the background or people talking because it kind of ruins, well, what the camera can pick up when it comes to the sound of the suppressor. So let's talk about my first impressions with the Meridian Defense VOLK-S, and I believe that's the pronunciation of the model, VOLK-S. It's an American AK that is designed from the ground up to be suppressed, and you guys know Meridian Defense is one of the best AK makers in the world. You know, I know when it comes to this video and this review, which by the way, this is not a review. I know I hate it. I don't hate it. I know that other people hate it when I always give this little disclaimer in the videos. This is not a review. I know if you're a true fan of the Texas Gun Vault, you already know this. This is just my second channel. This is my behind the scenes channel. And this is my first impressions. This is not the full review. If you want to check out all of my full reviews, go to my main channel. There's a link in the description below. This is just where I talk about the guns when I get them back from the range. But the AK is a gun that I love to hate to review, or hate to love to review, because I will always get the, I guess we're going to call them AK tards out there that look at the AK as the only rifle in the world. You're only a man if you shoot an AK all the time. How dare you ever shoot an AR-15 or anything else? And if you're not Rob Ski from the AK-47 Union or Brandon Herrera or whoever the AK guys are these days, you're a nobody. You don't deserve to even hold that rifle. And everything I do with the rifle is wrong. And all of my thoughts with it are wrong, even if it's the same thing that they agree with. If Jason from the Texas Gun Vault says he likes that about the AK, well, now I have to hate it about the AK. It's just the mentality of AK guys. And if you're an AK lover, well, I'm right there with you because I really think these are awesome guns. But the AK for me in today's world is kind of like fish and chips or lobster. If you know the history of those foods, those were foods that were initially intended for poor people. You know, lobster was fed to prison inmates in New England, and fish and chips was a poor person's food in England. And now it's a delicacy. And if you want to get like real North Atlantic cod, and it's expensive. It's expensive. So when it comes to an AK, we all know it was, a cheap Russian rifle. It was designed to be robust and reliable. And today, when it comes to all of the reviews and all of the information, even when I was doing my research on this, they're talking about the different materials that the trunnions are made from and the machinery this gun is made on and the tight tolerances. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we've come a long way. These guns, AKs, were designed to be pumped out in mass numbers. They were kind of throwaway rifles for the battlefield, designed that if a soldier goes down, the next guy could just pick it up and keep on going. It wasn't going to stop. And I don't really think the makers of the Russian AKs, post-World War II, were really worried about, well, we have to make sure that we heat treat every trunnion to this specific thing, and we're going to source our metals from this very specific. They just built the AKs. And, but today everybody gets their panties in a twist if, it doesn't have a particular hardness level and so forth. And everyone's all worried about head spacing on AKs. But back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and probably even the 80s, nobody really used go, no-go gauges all that often. They didn't worry about that. It's only in today's world. And now we have rifles like this that cost a lot. I mean, this is a really expensive rifle. And for me, it kind of deviates from Mikhail Kalashnikov's real design intent. It's not an everyday person's rifle anymore. It's kind of a boutique rifle. But with that said, when it comes to AKs, this is probably the nicest one I've ever shot. Is it the coolest one I've ever shot? No. And for me, an AK has to be cool by its provenance, its history. I love old AKs, ones that are very reminiscent of the way they used to be made, like the old Norinkos, or one that has the classic look with the wood furniture. I love the way those look. I just think those are the coolest AKs, but this hands down is the nicest built AK and might be the best I've ever shot. So there's a little bit of a dichotomy there. And if you're an AK lover, does that make any sense? You can like the build and the look of older ones, but appreciate how far the design has come.
But we have this really cool multi-cam Cerakote on it. It just seems to be a really well-built gun. I did not use any optics on it. The owner of this, D, he did send a RS Regulate mount, but he only sent half of it, and I need to tell him about that. There's supposed to be another part that goes over the top cover, so I really couldn't put any optics on it. But of course, we're going back to an AK, and another thing about many of the US AK tards, and I say that term as just kind of busting people's balls. I don't really hate them or anything. But you know, they like to have that poster in the background where that, you know, Russian, he's holding the AK and he has his hand out like this and it says like, "Niet, rifle is fine," meaning don't change anything about it. But all the AK people are like, you know, "Niet, the rifle is fine, don't change," but yet they're like, "Sweet, does it have an M4 stock? Does it have an RS Regulate mount on it? Does it have a cool handguard? Does it have a adjustable gas block?" I'm like, wait a sec. I thought the rifle was fine, but anyway, this is really cool. I said that's a cool modernization of it. I think I would prefer, and this is just my personal opinion, I kind of wish that they wouldn't throw on AR-15 furniture on an AK. For me, I want my AKs to be AKs, and I want my ARs to be ARs. We don't throw AK parts on ARs, so don't throw AR parts on AKs. Now, I know you can change the stock out to something else, but we are using an M4 style buffer tube. I know it's easy, parts are available, and you have so many different stock options. But I kind of feel like, let's make a stock for an AK that's more in the tradition and the heritage and the aesthetics of an AK. The handguard is a metal handguard. It is nice in that it goes almost all the way out to the end of the barrel. But the downside to this is it gets hot. I mean, it gets hot. In fact, I measured it with the laser thermometer. After just a few magazines and not even rapid fire, we were getting up to about 130, almost 140 on just the handguard alone. So it kind of becomes uncomfortable to shoot. I kind of prefer the old polymer and the wood ones. I feel like it really helps protect you a little bit more. But of course, you get much more versatility on this one. So how did it shoot? How did it shoot? It is one of the most balanced AKs, and recoil impulse, it was very soft. Now we do have an adjustable gas block up here. I did shoot this suppressed, and we're going to talk about my first impressions with this guy too in just a moment. But the recoil impulse was very soft. I really didn't feel like the gun was hard. And honestly, it felt like kind of like an AR. I was so impressed by it. And it is chambered in 7.62 by 39, which typically hits a little bit more than 5.56. But a very pleasant gun to shoot. I was surprised to see that the sights are off a little bit. Now, I really like this gas block here in the front and the front sight. We have more of a traditional leaf sight here on the back. But the sights were off. It shot definitely to the left. The groups are great, but the sights were off. And I would think that Meridian would do a better job with that. I mean, it's only off by a little bit, but at like 25 yards, if I shot for the center of the target, it was off by 3 inches. It was still a great group. It was just off by 3 inches. And so I know at further distances, that would be exacerbated. As I said, I just kind of felt like they would do a better job it leaving the factory. Maybe they, you know, when they test fire it, they're only looking for function and not necessarily accuracy. But I had to hold quite far to the right on all the targets to get it close to the center. But I'm not really going to dock any points for that. I just don't personally have an AK sight adjustment tool, especially one for the front sight. So you can easily sight it in, and it wasn't that far off. So it's not really a big deal. It's just something I kind of expected it to be better right out of the box. And I did fire the first shots through this, so D let me do that. The gun is very well gassed. I used both the unsuppressed and suppressed settings. And even the unsuppressed setting, it wasn't over. It just ran like a top. It ran great. I have to say that the action of this gun, super smooth. Yeah, it's just a great rifle. Really, really nice. I kind of feel like, I mean, if you can afford one, this is kind of the AK for AR guys. Does that make any sense? Because I think you'll feel right at home. You get the mechanics of the rock and lock system, the caliber. a reliable system, but you feel a little bit more at home, like it's a more modern rifle than you would with a wood-stocked, early AKM style firearm. But overall, fantastic. I couldn't shoot it as fast as I can in AR. I'm still an AR guy at heart, and I know some people are gonna say, well, if you're an AR guy, you shouldn't even review AKs. Well, it's like if you like Porsche, it doesn't mean you can't own or drive a Corvette or something, I'm just an average gun guy, but I know the AK purists, the AK tards will be all over me for it, but it's nice. It's really nice. And honestly, I personally kind of want one now. It's really neat, but it does have a few shortcomings. That says that the gun gets really hot. Okay, so that's kind of my first impressions on this. I still have to review the range footage and kind of put together my final thoughts and the range report itself. Now let's talk about the suppressor. Now this is something I was very impressed with, and this is the Zastava Arms USA. So even though Zastava is based in Serbia, they have to make the suppressors in the United States for NFA reasons. This thing works great. Now, AKs are not the best rifles to suppress. They're very leaky gas-wise, especially like up in the gas tube. And we do have those ports on the gas tube that vent any gas. I guess it's kind of to, I don't know, maybe slow the bolt down a little bit. But you guys have seen those on some AKMs. And we know the tolerances on AKs in general are a little bit looser. So you're just going to have more gas blow-by. And it does affect the gun and the sound of the gun when it's suppressed. I'm going to say that this suppressor has a really nice tone, low pitch for 7.62 by 39, but I don't think it's hearing safe. Now, I don't have the equipment. It's the one thing in my suppressor reviews I cannot test, and I really want to see what the dB rating is on it. My guess is it's going to be pretty close to 140, which is the level that OSHA says is hearing safe. If it is hearing safe, it's going to be on the lower end of like 136, 137, 138, somewhere in there. And of course, if you guys don't know, the decibel scale is a logarithmic scale. So, the distance between 136 and 137 is not the same as 137 to 138. But it's pretty close to not being hearing safe, but its tone is really good. And it definitely does suppress the rifle. I mean, it's way quieter. The blowback on this isn't too bad. This is not a low flow suppressor. It does have the aesthetics of the original kind of AK suppressors from the Soviet Union, where you have this big bulge here on the front. But it's not a flow through modern baffle design. And when I ran the gun both on the unsuppressed setting and the suppressed setting, it honestly kind of felt the same. It both ran, and it wasn't too much, it wasn't too gassy. I wasn't getting a lot of smell and stuff coming back through the action, but I could definitely see a lot of sparks and gas coming out of these little ports on the gas tube. And that's where I think a lot of the sound that was not being suppressed was coming from. And you definitely notice it. You see it. In fact, the first few rounds when I shot this rifle suppressed, I was a little bit concerned that something had happened because I saw those sparks, and then I realized, oh yeah, it's the gas tube. The things, I don't know if you can hear them. There's the dogs. I tell you, they always get in every one of these Texas Gun Vault 2 videos. They're barking. They just can't shut up. All right, so another thing about this suppressor that impresses me is the weight. Now, if I was only going to have one AK suppressor, I think I would be more interested in more of the traditionally built ones, like from, I think it's the Wolverine from Dead Air. This one has the look of the Wolverine, but you hold it and you realize this thing is super light. And I have to go do my research and see what material it's made of. It is definitely 3D printed. It's a little rough around the edges. I don't like that. I wish it looked a little bit more refined. But I'm going to say it's probably titanium. It's a super light material. I love that. It doesn't add a lot of weight to the end. And the biggest surprise with this suppressor, once again, there's these Zastava Arms VOLK, V-U-K is the suppressor. This thing cools down fast. So when I did my laser thermometer test, after a mag dump or two, this thing gets up to about 400 degrees, pretty hot. And 5 minutes later, it was like 130, 135. And I could get it off the rifle without needing any type of protection. Yeah, it was warm. And it's right, kind of like right on that edge. But my test is that I believe a suppressor has good heat resiliency. Is if after 5 minutes of it just sitting on the shooting table, if it has dissipated 50% of the heat, it's good. Like I kind of feel like that's how it like really passes the test. And this thing exceeded that. No other suppressor cools down as fast as this. And even when I had to put the suppressor back on for some test, I shoot a little bit. In no time at all, it was already cool. I was so impressed by that. So the weight and the heat dissipation of this suppressor is phenomenal. Tone is pretty good, but it's a gassy rifle. It's designed for a gun that's going to leak gas, so it's going to be a little bit louder and not a lot of resistance. There is a little bit to it, but it's not a flow-through baffle design. But with an AK like this, it does great. So it was a great experience. So I got a lot of good range footage on both items. And I really feel like we're going to get some good range reports out of this. But yeah, this thing is awesome. Hands down, probably the nicest AK I've ever shot. Not my favorite. The suppressor works really well, and I think they're definitely onto something. And I think for a modern AK, it's the perfect suppressor. It's everything I would want. But if I had more of a traditional rifle AK that I was going to suppress, I'd want more of like the Wolverine from Dead Air. But that's just because I'm kind of a purist in that way. But I like everything. I like the modern stuff. I like the classic stuff. So there you go. That's my first impressions on the Meridian Arms VOLK-S and the Zastava Arms VUK. VOK? Anyway, suppressor. And great times with this. So there you go. So let me know your thoughts. Is there anything about this rifle I should know or take into consideration when I create the script? And anything you'd want me to talk about. So that's it. Thanks for joining me at the range and here in my hot garage. And if you made it to the end of this video, the word of the day is going to be pure. Pure is the word of the day. Because tell me, do you prefer rifles that are more pure, like they were originally built for many years? You know, the whole Niet rifle is fine. Or do you like the more modern stuff that really deviates from the original intent of this rifle? So once again, thank you for joining me. And as always, thanks for watching.